When I was a kid, I liked Star Trek The Next Generation and thought the holodeck was awesome. I could have all sorts of fun playing cowboys and Indians in there. However, as I got older, I started to wonder, why doesn't everyone use it like Barkley does? And welcome back to the heart of the stories we tell. And today's episode is the second episode of Westworld, which I'm starting to worry about. Not because I don't like it, in fact I like it a lot, but because I'm starting to think there might be too many mysteries involved here, and we might not catch on. This episode, I think, should have been the first episode, because in this episode we get to meet the first guest that comes in, and we follow him through the orientation. It's HBO, and still a lot of sick stuff is going on, so do be warned that I can't avoid talking about some of it. Even though, once again, I can't imagine that anyone thought it was a good idea to program robots to feel, and then torture them. Now, I want to take a minute and say where I'm coming from as I review this episode and others going forward. Some people are comparing this to an MMO online. I'm personally looking at it as a paper and dice role-playing game or a LARP role-playing game, mostly the LARP. I had a little bit to do with a vampire and mage game back in the day, and then I went to this place called Nero that was a little more like Westworld. You swung around fake swords, you actually hit each other, but you didn't hurt each other. So the role that I can most see myself in is that of the story creator, or that of the player. Even though I'm rooting for the robot, I can understand a certain amount of, hey, I wrote this dialogue and I want to see this dialogue used. Hey, this world all sprang from my imagination, and I want to showcase it so that everyone can enjoy that which I created. Heck, that's part of why I created this channel. So as we move forward with this review and others, do keep that in mind. A lot of what I'm approaching as a storyteller and a rules lawyer, and trying to figure out what the rules of this game are. If you search online for role-playing jokes, you'll find that there are bunches of types of role-players people joke about. But in reality, there's this spectrum. And I think that it's important to know that people who run these live-action games and people who run these paper and dice games have to either accidentally fall into the right one for their players or do a lot of research into the type of players they have. I've been on both sides, and I've watched this. People fall into only a few parts of the spectrum. They want to role play, they want to be an actor, they want to immerse themselves in their character and do what their character would do, and those are the type of people that'll sit in that bar all day and talk to the whores and talk to the other cowboys and maybe go out and do some exploring. And if something is right, they'll get into a fight because it's right for their character. Then there are people who are just about the exploring. They'll get into a fight if they have to. They'll talk to the NPCs and the robot. But in reality, what they want to do is they want to look around and see everything. Then there are people that are there to fight. And those people are there, and they're going to go look for a fight. And if they can't find one, they're going to make one. And the important thing is you need to engage all of them. And remember, there are people that fall into, well, there's so much actor, so much fighter, so much explorer. So you need ways that can account for all of them. And I wonder, how does Westworld actually engage all the types of people that will come there? So once again, it's stop. Spoiler time. And we're back into episode 2 itself, and boom, we're introduced to 2 new players, and our first real walkthrough of the rule. William doesn't seem like a jerk, getting off of the subway car that they come in on. He instantly kind of feels like just a normal person. The host at the beginning kind of rubs me the wrong way. Going back to my game analogy, the opening scene, the getting into the game, sets your expectations for what type of game you're going to be. Any storyteller worth his salt knows that if you start a game, bang, and you're in the middle of a combat situation, people are going to expect combat. If you start it with, bang, here's something big going on, and there's some sort of explosion, and people asking for help, it sets your expectations to being the big damn heroes. If you start a game with, hey, do you want me to undress you? I'm a beautiful woman, and I'm here to please you any way you need to be pleased. Now, don't get me wrong, there could be sexiness in a game, there could even be sexual situations in a game, but I would not personally feel comfortable with a game that started this way. Meanwhile, back to the most human character, the robot. Dolores is starting to have moments where she's remembering previous versions of herself, where she's starting to see between the lines, and maybe starting to become conscious. And the idea introduced last week of code words being able to awaken parts of the programming takes on a whole new meaning. These violent delights have a violent ending. And then we're back to my favorite guest, the new guy. And you know what? He has to choose what hat to wear. And that is very symbolic. Are you a good guy or a bad guy, a white hat or a black one? In the real world, we all wear gray more often than not. You know what? When I play games, every once in a while I like to dip into the black hat territory. It can be fun to play Grand Theft Auto a little, but at the end of the day, if I'm going to spend a weekend or a week engaged with something, I want to be the hero of the story. I want that white hat. But it would be an awfully boring story without a couple of black hats. And that's what brings us to this man in black. A veteran of 30 years, a power gamer, and a rules lawyer. At this point in the story, I do wonder, though, is he just looking for the next challenge? Is he looking for just the next level of the game? Hey, I heard this expansion pack came out with the maze in it. I don't know. We're going to have to wait and find out about that. But there will be more at the end of the episode dealing with it. But first we need to talk about the most on-the-nose dialogue, the whole thing about the dreams, and then I can reach out and touch whatever I want. And you know what? Whoever wrote this dialogue seriously needs to understand that it breaks the fantasy to think about it as a fantasy. The androids don't appear to be able to tell what type of person you are. There's no intuitive empathy there. So, of course, their speeches aren't landing all the time. Then we get this speech about, let's just turn up her aggression. After all, she's just a whore. And I sit there and I go, turn up the aggression. Oh, turn up the aggression. Oh, boy. Yeah, I can't imagine turning up the aggression could possibly cause a problem when we already have problems in the park. But as long as we're behind the scenes, let's talk about Sir Anthony Hopkins. And let's be honest, any scene he's in is awesome. And we get the, what type of god am I to make these robots mortal? For an HBO show filled with TNA, I have to say, the philosophy behind this, pretty spot on amazing. And I love the fact that you can use some themes to make people really think. The private conversation with Dolores, for instance, makes me think of a father-daughter relationship, which is kind of weird, but kind of fitting. Meanwhile, in the park, our white hat and our black hat friends are walking into town, and things are about to get interesting. Because earlier we were told it was rings around the town. The farther out you go, the crazier it gets. Now we have an idea that everyone in town is a quest giver. Someone that can sit there and say, hey, I have this treasure map, let me help you with it. Hey, I have this, hey, I have that. Or they're whores, you know. There's then the whores, too. Whores with horrible pickup lines, but hey, whores all the same. But that's not to say that the speechwriters can't write one, because let's be honest, that scene when the white hat is sitting there, that whore had some good lines. Real love is worth waiting for. But enough said, let's get back to Violin, because our man in the black hat is still searching for that maze, and he comes across some place that he hasn't ever been to before. And that's amazing, because in 30 years you think he would have explored the entire landscape. If you've ever played The Legend of Zelda, you know the first thing you do is you check out the map. If you've ever played Grand Theft Auto, you know the first thing you do is check out your boundaries. So I wonder, has this place not existed for all 30 years? Or is it some sort of, you have to do the right thing to get there? It's kind of evil to watch this guy work. I mean, bullets can't hurt him because the computers are designed not to be able to hurt him. So he's basically Superman, walking through a world of tissue paper, and causing as much harm as he can along the way. However, then we get back to that maze part, and the quest giver part, and how it all comes together near the end of this episode. And like any good story, it leaves us with more questions, but we'll come back to that. But then from sickening violence, we go to horrific concept, as we go back out of the park and into where they're examining the hooker. Because you see, she isn't working right. And thank God they at least mention the fact that, hey, maybe we shouldn't be making these things more aggressive, but maybe more empathic. Alright, so at least someone there in the park knows what they're doing. Or at least you'd think so. Seriously, someone that wrote the other people's dialogue, write her better dialogue. However, the important part about her running around naked with a scalpel is the whole dream thing. The fact that they can now access their previous memories, the fact that those memories are coming through as dreams, the fact that basically the whole park is about to wake up into something very scary. But this episode ends on a stirring speech by Sir Anthony Hopkins, and again, I couldn't do it justice, so I'm not even going to try. Just, you have to watch the episode and be amazed at what he says the park is all about. And then the fact that he's been working on a story all along, a new module for the game. And I'm curious what exactly that church means. But then we have scenes from next time, and you know what? I just want to quickly recap here. This entire episode answered a ton of questions. Why they have dialogue when they're not around other people, why there are whole scenes that we didn't understand, why it is that they are starting to remember things, the fact that that line of dialogue was starting to unlock secret code, but it also left new questions. What is the maze? Why was the daughter of a bandito the person holding the key to the maze? What exactly did her riddle mean? And even more important, how is it someone's played this game for 30 years and doesn't know what's going on in every corner of the world? Is this something new they've just recently added? Or is this something that's been hidden since day one? So to answer the question I asked at the beginning, Why does not everyone use the holodeck like Barkley? Well, it's simple, because you know it's not real. And when you know it's not real, sometimes you can't immerse yourself. And maybe in that first episode they had it right. Making them look less real might have been a better bet. However, I also think that the action-adventure can't be dissuaded. Now, while I've been doing this, I've been thinking, this is kind of like a movie, well, it's a TV show on HBO, and it's kind of like a game, because inside there's a game. You know what Matt Pat should do? Those of you that know me and have been following know that I've watched both film and game theory. This is a crossover episode of film and game theory, if ever I've seen it. Well, for now, if you're as interested as I am, I'd like to piece this all together. So why don't you subscribe, like, share, and comment on this video so that we can grow the community, and then join me back here next time as we take a walk through the heart of the stories we tell. Thanks for watching.